Take 12. If you want the run uncut, unapologetic from the jump, and no politics in this club. Just dirt from the streets and the creeks in the mud. Take 12. Best podcast for the Seahawks, #1 sports talk. Yeah, we got it on live. Take 12. Every episode 12 hot takes, and we reppin' for Seattle, my place. Take 12.
It's the Take 12 podcast, proudly brought to you by Wiener Schnitzel. 2 locations up in Western Washington, Everett and Fife. Go on in, get a chili dog, get a corn dog, get mini corn dogs. How about a milkshake, a root beer float? It's all good at Wiener Schnitzel, Everett and Fife. Go and mention our podcast, the Take 12 podcast. Get a free small soda with your other purchase. Welcome to the show. I'm a lifelong Seahawk fan, Brett Davern. He is Seahawks legend Lofa and on this episode, the Seahawks played their first preseason game, so we'll get into all of that. There's some personnel stuff going on. Jordan Brooks is back, everybody, from the injury, so how will he fit in? And we're also on this episode, we're going to have a very special guest, Lofa's friend. You guys grew up together, basically, I think, over there in Massachusetts. Their dads played for the same football team. Then years later, they played together. Lofa was the captain of the D. He was the captain of the O. Your favorite bald quarterback should be joining us. My favorite bald quarterback of all time should be joining us. Matt, or may I call him Matthew Hasselbeck? Yeah.
Don't make that mistake.
And, this podcast, we don't edit. We do everything live. So he's going to be jumping in as we're talking. We'll see how this goes. But he will be jumping into the Zoom, and I can't wait to chat with him. But Lofa, let's just kick it off with the game. It's preseason. It's guys getting their shot, which is the best part of preseason, but it's also preseason. So what did you think about the game, and what did we learn about our team, if anything?
I always start with defense, because I was a defender. They looked good, man. And I know it's, our first look and not all the starters are playing, but you got to be pleased with what you saw. Guys showing up, and we might be even deeper at several positions that people were concerned about, even like DB. We'll get to that, talking about Spoon, and then Kobe Bryant. Just making some great plays. But, the linebackers, I'm looking at the stats right here. Radigan, 9 tackles. Devin Bush, 6, before he got pulled, I think right before half. So Patty O'Connell from Montana A. Yeah. The Irishman from Montana.
Looking good.
He had 5. Just a lot of production right there in the linebacker room alone. And there was a pass breakup too by another young linebacker. I think it was Christian Young. So that's a position that everybody's had eyes on at camp.
Yeah.
I know we got Bobby back, but we signed out. You just mentioned Brooks is back. We got some weapons, and that's exciting to see.
Yeah, and looking good with not all the starters out there and everything. A lot of guys resting. I don't know. I don't know exactly how many guys were resting for Minnesota or whatever, so you never know who's playing who out there. But they looked good, and the biggest question I think on D in the minds of Seahawk fans coming into this season would be run defense and stopping the run, since that was the big thing from last year that we had some trouble with. So how did the run defense specifically look to you, even though we know it wasn't the starters out there?
Yeah, but it held up nicely, and I think the biggest word is interior, what are we doing? Well, the tough thing about last year was you couldn't just say, oh, it's just the A gap, right between the guard and the center. You couldn't say it's just the B gap. Where they ran the ball was a potential to break. And that was the biggest, mind blowing, because usually there's a pattern to where they run the ball and have success. But last year it was anywhere they ran the ball, outside, inside.
Yeah.
It was just
no matter who ran it.
Didn't matter who it was.
Could be a wide receiver taking a handoff. Didn't matter.
It was wild. And so, obviously, you want to see when the starters come back because especially early on in the season, regardless of what happens in our next couple of preseason games, early in the season, that's what's going to be tested. So we'll wait to reserve, judgment on that. But pleased with the young guys, strong on the edges, everything.
I told you we were doing this live. We're going to have to go straight from run probably to offense, because it just popped up here. Matt Hasselbeck has joined the Zoom. Yes. Let me admit him here. We'll have to tell him we're just doing this thing live. He's coming in midstream here.
Oh, he's ready. He's ready for the show.
He's a pro's pro. Absolutely. He's probably getting his camera fired up. And I'm assuming he'll want to switch straight from defense to offense, but
as we should.
In secondary. Oh, there he is.
Look at that trophy case.
Wow. Look at that background.
Look at that Wiener Schnitzel.
Hi, yes. Matt. I'm Brett, and Lofa.
Lofa to Tupu.
What is up, brother?
How you doing, man? Good to see you. Well, look at your background. Shoot, I can't compete with that.
Yeah, that's CGI, but yeah, I'll take it.
It's right off.
Hey, Lofa, you look great, man. You look great. Been watching you. Look like an athlete out there. It's awesome.
Thanks, brother. Just got another MVP trophy to add to. It was a softball game, but I'll still take it.
My money was on you. Can we do daily fantasy on like all the legends things that you do? Because I feel really, really strongly about my old teammates, like who'd be good at what, who's first to get hurt in a like celebrity charity softball game, like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We should start that up. We can get our own league going.
Yeah, Lofa would be my first pick in softball or golf. That's pretty much his life now. Golfing and softball.
Really?
I'm great in a scramble, terrible on my own.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say I'll take that bet.
Matt, thanks for being on the show, man. I mean, I'm a lifelong Seahawks fan, obviously huge fan of yours, so really appreciate you taking the time and jumping in here. And Lofa and I were just chatting about the game, the first preseason game here. I don't know did you have a chance to check it out, the Hawks game?
I'm kind of a highlight guy now. You know what I mean? Like, so I just got laid off at ESPN, which was kind of a blindside hit. Didn't see it coming. But, it's not the end of the world. It'll be okay. I'm coaching high school football right now. So I coached my son last year, did high school football coaching, and did my Sunday NFL Countdown job and like features and stuff like that. And so I was planning on coaching high school football anyway. So now with this like newfound freedom that I have, I'm coaching a little bit more high school football. So we start officially Friday, but we've been doing like uppers. Uppers is like helmets and shoulder pads and technique. So I've been like knee deep in like
you've been watching other film. Yeah,
Zavarian Hawks versus we're getting ready for Everett. That's our first opponent. But so that's been a little bit more my focus. But I never get too high or low on preseason anyway. Yeah. Just having been someone that came into the NFL as Brett Favre's backup for 3 years. I kind of like statistically sort of dominated the preseason, like just like really couldn't have played any better. And then I get to Seattle, first time playing like real football, regular season, like literally fell right on my face. So like, I think even me bought into some of the hype in the preseason of myself. So I think I learned the hard way that preseason is preseason. There are things you can learn from it, but at the same time, you got to keep it in perspective.
What was that first meeting with Brett Favre like?
It was incredible, because really all the guys that I was teammates with, Reggie White, Leroy Butler, Brett Favre, like I literally had the Sports Illustrated covers of them like hanging on my wall in my room. Mm-hmm. And so like the first team meeting, like I remember we'll use Brett as an example, but really all the guys, Brett came in and was like, "Hey, I'm Brett. What's your name?" I was like, yeah, I know you're Brett. It would be like Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. It was like he was coming off of his second consecutive Super Bowl, third consecutive MVP. And it was like a super cool feeling. I remember I was getting paid to play in the preseason. And I remember the veterans were upset. I think we got $70 a day. And they were like long days, sun up to sundown. And I was fired up. I'm like, can you believe they're paying me? Like, I feel like I should be paying them. Like I get to throw to these guys. It was really cool.
Yeah. Well, speaking of getting to throw to these guys, then let's just talk some Seahawk personnel because everyone's going gaga over the receiver group, and they should for good reason. I mean, what a talented group. I mean, Matt, you had talented receivers to throw to all the time in your career. Of course, we love all the guys here, but what would it be like to throw to these guys that they got now?
It always takes like one difference maker, I think, to really change how a defense will play you. And I think Lofa would agree. Like when we were playing, there was either a Randy Moss or a T.O. Like there were, or even like with the St. Louis Rams at the time, the greatest show on turf. You couldn't leave somebody one-on-one. Like you just couldn't do it. So you had to have like obviously a corner, and then like a safety probably on that side. Once you take two guys on one, now it changes everything that we want to do in terms of establishing the run, running 3 or 4 man concepts the other way. And if you ever want to get, I don't know, like you ever want to be a riverboat gambler and leave that guy one-on-one, it's on. And that's really what I think they have in DK Metcalf. He is a guy that scares people. And not to say he's the only guy that scares people on the Seahawks, but when you have that one guy that absolutely scares people, and then they're afraid to leave him one-on-one, and then you have a coach that's committed to actually running the ball, that's really what everyone's looking for. Mm-hmm. Seahawks have that personnel-wise and scheme-wise.
Yeah. What do you see quarterback wise out of number 7? Let's get number 8's take on number 7.
Listen, I going back to last year, and I would even double down on it this year. I think he looks like he's in great shape. I've followed Geno a long time, and last year I thought physically, just looking at him, the way he was moving, even how he looked in his uniform, I'm saying this is a guy that treated the offseason different. I don't know what he did exactly, but this is a guy that's sending a message without really even saying anything. Like, hey, I'm coming in the best shape of my life. A lot of people say that. Not a lot of people do it. He clearly did it. Yeah. I thought the ball comes out of his hands. He's a really good deep ball thrower, but just physically, for a guy that's older and kind of the later part of his career, to look the best that he's ever looked, I think that says something. And I would say, like Tom Brady, it's a little bit of a common thing people would say, like, oh, well, compare somebody to Tom Brady. But Tom Brady, the older he got, I would say, like, the better he got physically. He's faster. He was faster at 42 years old than he was at 24 years old. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah. How many people could say that? But I would say for Geno, just like that look that he brought last year, and I would say I see it again this year. And what I think some people know, maybe not everybody knows, Geno Smith is a very, very good deep ball thrower. Yeah. And when you're a very, very good deep ball thrower, that's one of the things that scouts are always looking for. And again, just going back to the defensive perspective, that puts fear in you when you know a guy is willing to and able to go over the top.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing the first picture of him coming to camp this year with the muscles. He looked like a young Matt Hasselbeck coming back again. Looked like he'd been on your training regimen.
He looks good. And Matt, I've said it time and time again. He throws one of the prettiest footballs I've seen since you, my friend, because you with the precision, and you knew when to put more, speed on it, but the touch, especially the West Coast offense, which is all predicated on timing, you always had it. And so this guy can put it anywhere, every throw he has, and it's incredible to watch.
Yeah. Well, there's different styles to Lofa. Like, as you know, there's different styles of quarterback, and it's not like you got to do it one way. But I do think that Geno Smith is a guy that he's had a journey, right? He's had a journey, and he's backed up Russell Wilson, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning. Like he's backed up some pretty good quarterbacks. To me, when I see him, I see a guy that still has his Geno Smith, West Virginia, like all those things that he brought to the table. But I feel like he's picked up stuff from Russ, from Phillip Rivers, from Eli. Like, I feel like he's sort of like he's taken this collection of people that he's have been coached by, and then the guys that he backed up. And so when I see him play, like, I do see a little bit of Russell Wilson's game in there. Like, I do see a little bit of Eli's game in there. And like, it's just a cool thing for young quarterbacks who maybe struggle early in their career to see that, like, sure, like all those things that you're saying, Loaf, I agree, but like it's almost like he's more dynamic as a player, and even with all these compliments, I do believe there's room to improve. And I would say, like, specifically for him, if I was his coach, I would say, okay, like, here's something that you do a good job of most of the time, but like ball security in the pocket, just 2 hands on the ball. Like that, like when you're trying to do a little bit extra, like you kind of know when to say when and just really hold on to that football, because really that can be just the difference between, basically playing in February and not playing in February.
Opportunities, yeah. That was my question was, teams everywhere, they struggle to find a quarterback. It's the hardest position to play. So I was just going to ask you, like, as you've evaluated college players, like, what do you look for when you're trying to find that guy?
It's funny. Like when I came out, I didn't get invited to the combine, right? Like I've mentioned this before. I didn't get invited to the combine. I kind of got uninvited when Ryan Leaf decided to come out early, and he bumped me. So I got bumped for a junior. So I've forgiven him. I'm a huge fan of Ryan Leaf, but at the time I was really angry with him. So like no sweat. I had a pro day. I'm like, my agent was like, no problem. You're not going to the combine. Just have a pro day. So I have a pro day. I invite all 32 teams. One team shows up. One team, the quarterback's coach for the Green Bay Packers, this guy named Andy Reid. He's the only guy that shows up. And so anyway, to make a long story short, I can talk about this for days. Andy Reid, we didn't even do football. Like we did a little bit of football. He wanted to get to know me. He wanted to like see how coachable I was. Like he was testing me on like other stuff. And so like I think when you're looking for quarterbacks, it's not the stuff necessarily that they do at the combine. Like, I think that would be like my quick answer, like what you're looking for. But I would say this too. There are some head coaches and some systems and some teams that understand how to help a quarterback be successful. And then there's some who don't. And I would just say for Pete Carroll, if you look at his track record, and Loaf, you could speak to this even better than me with his track record, he gets good quarterback play out of his quarterbacks. He really does. And then there's another thing, and I was going to do a story on this if I was at ESPN this year, but I'm not. So someone else can do this story. Quarterbacks, when they leave Pete Carroll, don't do nearly as well usually as they did when they were with him. And so, like, I don't know. I was so happy to see. Well, I think it's because Pete's a good coach, and he understands a lot about how to coach that position and how to coach a team. And maybe, again, there's a lot that goes into
and
it.
how to coach that player.
Matt, you were, sorry, Lofa.
I would say even just how to, what buttons to push. I mean, like you and Holmgren, right? So to speak. It's just coaches, they know how to get through and connect a guy and clear the distraction and all the white noise. Just like, hey, this is what you need to focus on right now. And I think that's really what Pete always did for all of his players, but especially his quarterbacks.
Well, that's what I was going to ask Matt. I mean, Matt, you had Holmgren, you had Andy Reid. I mean, that coaching staff at Green Bay, Holmgren's coaching staff, his tree is just stacked. But then you had Pete also for one season at least, right?
1 year, yeah, 1 year.
So what is it about Pete that then makes him such a good coach for quarterbacks?
Just like you say with quarterbacks, does he have an it factor? I think you say that with head coaches. There's not one style, but he's got an it factor. I mean, he's a great leader of men. He's got a clear vision. He had 3 rules when I was there. I could still repeat those 3 rules today, like years and years later. Like he kept it clear, clean, concise. He had a John Wooden quality about him. And I just really believe in him as a coach. I've had a lot of coaches and I've had a lot of great coaches. I do believe in Pete as a coach. And, I was happy to see Geno sign back with the Seahawks because I'm sure he had opportunities to go to like Tampa or like somewhere else. And like, I just really think the best decision for Geno, regardless of whatever the money was to stay with Pete and just kind of stay in this system globally as like what it means to be a team. What's our culture? What's our DNA? How are we going to talk around the building? But also just schematically. And had Geno left, like had Geno taken the money and gone somewhere else, like Tampa, we'll just say. Yeah. In a weird way, I kind of think I believe in Drew Lock. Like I kind of think like they would have been fine. Like they believe in Drew Lock. And that's not to slight Geno at all, but like, I just think that there's something better about how Pete Carroll and his team coach the quarterback, coach the team, run the whole show versus what I see in other teams where at the quarterback position, it's a complete disaster. And these teams have no chance to compete for a Super Bowl because they don't have good quarterback play. They don't have consistent quarterback play. And quite honestly, they don't have leadership at the position and they don't have execution at the position.
And then they cycle to the next guy and the next guy, without ever really developing them.
So what do we?
Yeah, and I would say I just like a one common theme in the program, and it's sort of a joke, but it's like not. It's like it's just the competition every single day, like just that mindset of competing. I don't care if we're in team period, if it's like me versus Lopa, if we're doing box paper scissors, if we're doing a free throw shooting contest, it's just competition all day long. And I do think that is something that I really respect that they do, and I think they do it really, really well.
Mm-hmm. How do we think, Lofa? I know you wanted to touch on Witherspoon. Do you want to do that quick?
Oh, we'll get to that after.
No, okay. Well, I just wanted to talk about then what do we see for this team then this season, Matt? I mean, Lofa's given his sort of record prediction. You could do that if you want. Or
very lofty.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, if we do what Lofa thinks, I'm in. Sign me up right now. We don't even need.
I was right last year. I'm just gonna say I was right last year.
Matt, what do you see for these guys this season?
Well, I just think like the plan of the rookies last year was really awesome. You know, it's a talented team. I could talk for days about Geno and how he did, but like the rookie tackles, the rookies on defense, really just what they're doing in the secondary, just that confidence. I would just caution everybody that every year is a different year. Like, and I just remember we had an offensive coordinator, Gil Haskell, that was a veteran coach, been around a lot of different great teams. And he would come in every year and he would say to the offense, it really doesn't matter what you did last year. Most of you guys in the room were here last year. It doesn't matter what you did last year. We are not that team. We are the last day of the year last year to the first day this year. We are not as good as that team. It starts over. And look around. This room maybe got more talented. That doesn't mean we're better. So I know that the team got more talented. Like, I know that, especially I would just say like adding a little bit of excitement. I don't know, like maybe explosiveness is the right word, but so what? Like Geno, you got to bring it like you brought it last year. Wide receiver group. You can't say, oh, our defense is going to be better. We can kind of like none of that. And so that's where I would just caution people. Like, that's why I think it's hard. This time last year, half of the world had the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl. And clearly that's the opposite of what happened, you know? So I think it's exciting, but I also think it's dangerous if you're a player to sort of play this game. And really, that's why I think it's hard to predict. And I think it's why the NFL is so fun. It's not like college football. Right. Like most of the teams have a chance. And Seahawks are certainly a team that could win their division. And if they win their division, you know, we know where it is from there.
Now, Lofa, you know, I only played freshman football in high school, but Matt, did you hear him there? He had that coach cadence going for like, right?
I was excited.
Matt, high school coaching, man. I mean, is it fun? Are you loving it?
Fun, but I got to tell you, we played Lofa's alma mater last year. Okay. Big rivalry. Okay. So the town that I grew up in, if I had gone to it's a small town. It's right near Gillette Stadium. Okay. If I had gone to the public high school in my town, which did not throw the ball at the time, but it would make up 3 towns, and we would make up this one high school called King Philip. And that's where Lofa played. And that's where Lofa played quarterback, actually.
Because Matt and his brothers didn't come.
No, we didn't. But I actually went to another school. I went to a private school closer to Boston, more tough city kids in that area, as Lofa knows.
They wouldn't schedule us. Just saying.
Anyway, I went there to play tight end because I wanted to catch the ball. They moved me to quarterback anyway. But last year, one of our losses was to Lofa's alma mater, and it was crushing. It was one of our first losses, and if not our first, I don't remember. But I took it so hard as a coach. Like as a player, you know, you take a loss hard, you watch the film, you see what you could have done better, and you just like move on. Mm-hmm. But as a coach, I really felt like I failed the kids, and like I couldn't sleep. I was like, gosh, I didn't know. Like I should have did, like, I didn't know the high school rules. The hash marks are different. I didn't fully understand our protection schemes at the time. And like, literally it sat with me for like 3 or 4 days. I called so many of my old coaches and apologized to them. I'm like, now I get why you were so angry and grumpy and like you couldn't get over a loss. And it was, you know,
for me, my kids are 6 and 8. I'm coaching baseball, but I feel the same way. I coach my own kids. Can I ask you about coaching your son? I mean, he's older and in high school, but I mean, what's it like to not that you've coached pros and stuff before, but you've been around so many pros and in the locker rooms and everything. It's got to be different when it's your own kid. I mean, it is for me.
Yeah.
I coached teams before having kids, and it's much different to coach when your own kids are on the team, isn't it?
No doubt. And I actually had like a little bit of a heads up. I was at Kurt Warner's celebrity flag football tournament one time, and I was there.
Lofa getting the MVP of that too?
He would actually. He would. A lot of pulled hamstrings at that thing. But so I was there. I was talking to Michael Irvin. Okay, and Michael Irvin's there, and Larry Fitzgerald's there, and Michael Irvin's like, "This is the darndest thing, man. I'm coaching my son. Like I tell him, hey, we're going to run this route. We're going to have our outside foot back, our fourth outside step. We're going to break, whatever." And my son's like, I don't know. I don't know, Dad. I don't know. Larry Fitzgerald tells him the exact same thing. And his son's like, oh, yeah. Yes, sir, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Great. Yeah, it's the best plan I've ever heard.
And Michael Irvin's freaking out. He's like, hold up. Larry Fitzgerald pays me to coach him on how he can get better. It's like that kind of thing. Yeah. So my son's freshman year, we lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and his head football coach was Trent Dilfer. And so I got like a little bit of a taste of it. Like anything Trent Dilfer, anything Coach Dilfer said, my son was like, yes, sir, I love it. I'm in, like all the way. And things that I would say, he would say, I don't know, Dad, have you ever even scored a touchdown by running it in? I was like, what? Yes. So like I got a taste of it, but honestly, I think like the biggest fear that I had coaching my own son was just the friction that might come up. And so like Mike Holmgren and I had this thing that we did that Kathy Holmgren came up with was after an unsuccessful play that didn't end in basically an extra point, like it wasn't a score. After the play was over, I would come off the field and I would go grab a drink of water or whatever. Mike would go touch the 30-yard line, come back, and then, maybe cool off. Everyone would cool off a little bit. He'd get information on his headset, and then we would have a conversation. So father, son, that can be a little friction. I would do the same thing. I would say, hey, you go celebrate with your teammates, high five the kicker, whatever. You go get a drink. I'm going to go touch the 30-yard line. I got my headset on. I'm getting information from the box, whatever, and we'll have a conversation. So credit to Mike Holmgren for, I really credit to Mrs. Holmgren for giving me something that's helping at the high school level right now, coaching. Yeah,
and probably something that's helped her out around the house a time or two also. What about
she said to Mike? So she said to Mike one time we got into a big fight after a 49ers game. And we won the game, but it was a little closer than Mike Holmgren would have appreciated. And we were sort of like fighting, I guess. And Mrs. Holmgren said to Mike, which one of you is the adult? Meaning like, okay, you should apologize first. And so like, I still think of that, like with with my son, who's a teenager, I sit there, I'm like, all right, I'm the adult here. Okay. So it's just like a deep breath. And he's doing great. He's doing great. He's going to play college football now. He was committed to play lacrosse. He's a very good lacrosse player. But he had his first year as a starting quarterback last year, and he's going to go play at Michigan State next year. So we're super excited. We're super proud. Amazing. But we also have a lot of work to do. So I'm excited to coach.
I think the Huskies roll into East Lansing early in the season for all you Huskies.
Well, he asked me when does Michigan State roll into Seattle? That's what he's excited about. So,
all right,
I can't wait.
Well, I was going to ask. I mean,
I think homecoming for us might be USC. I'm not sure. Probably.
Be careful. We got the machine rolling out there.
You probably do. I should shut up. You probably do. I don't know.
Let's talk about like coaching your sons, but I mean, you guys both had dads that played in the league and on the same team. And I mean, you guys have known each other forever, haven't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, Mosi Tutupu was the flea flicker, halfback pass, gadget play, Steve Grogan. Like he was one of the best. Like he was one of my favorite players, just a really well-respected guy. But listen, one of my favorite stories that I've told, actually I told like near the end of my career, I was 40 years old. I ended up starting a bunch of games for the Colts because Andrew Luck got hurt. And I would tell this story. I remember when Lofa got drafted to the Seahawks in 2005. He came in and I was like, oh my gosh, Lofa Tutupu, our dads played together. You're from my, hometown, blah, 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 all this stuff. And our punter at the time, Jeff Fiegels, was like, Tupu. And maybe, Loaf, you could finish his story for me. He goes, I think you want to finish it? Or you want me to finish it?
It was with the Giants. He was with the
No,
Giants.
so he's like, I think this is how it went. I think Jeff Eagles is like, Lofa to Tupu. I think your dad was my personal protector.
My up back, yeah, the first PP.
No way.
I remember Figs. I remember Figs.
I remember Fiegels too. He was in the league for quite a while.
Sure was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you guys know each other as kids running around the Patriots locker room or anything like that?
So Lofa was, what are you, Loaf? Like 6 years younger than me, probably.
Yeah.
And so Loaf was the same age as my youngest brother, Nathaniel, who so those were the epic battles. My brother, Nathaniel, who lives out in Seattle still. They would have epic battles. The Norfolk Medfield Millis Vikings against Lofa Tupu and the, at that time, Rentham Plainville Warriors.
Yeah.
Battles. And then I believe Mosi Tutupu, Lofa's dad, was your head football coach when you got to King Philip, right?
Yeah. The memories I have of facing young Nathaniel, him high stepping into the end zone on the Super Bowl on a sweep. I still remember it clear as day. I made a big hit, a play or two, and then they run like an end around, or he just takes it on the right sideline. And we're all looking back, and he's just ball back, high stepping like Deion Sanders. I was like, man, that was pretty epic.
Yeah.
Lofa, what was it like for you when you got drafted, but then when you kind of realized it's the Seahawks, but then that Matt was there, that had to be kind of cool, huh?
I just thought it was, small world, right? Crazy.
Right.
For our dads to play together all the way on the East Coast, and then us to come all the way up to the Pac Northwest and, put our names, on the map. And, really kind of, it really started to change the way football was looked at. I know a lot of people, these days, a lot of kids, they don't know that their football existed before 2013 in Seattle. But, what we had was something special. And it was incredible to see that he was the captain of the offense. And I was the captain of the defense. And we were both from, towns over back in Massachusetts.
Coolest thing.
The funny thing, I think our captain of the special teams might have been Isaiah Kaczynski, Harvard guy. Yeah. So I'll just everybody pulling from Boston.
5 miles.
But before Lofa got there, Mike Holmgren would always talk about the Packers, his time there, getting to Super Bowls, and he would talk about the 49ers. And when he would talk about the 49ers, he would talk about, I forget the order, but he would say, first we got Joe Montana, then we got Ronnie Lott, or vice versa. And then he talked about hey, first we got, Reggie White, and then we got Brett Favre, or vice versa. And he would always say to me, hey, you need to take control of this offense. He would say that. And it took a little bit for me to do that, but I got there. And then we got Lofa, and we had signed a high-priced veteran free agent to be our starting middle linebacker. Lofa, what round were you drafted in? Second round. So Lofa comes in, not expected to be our starter, takes over the job. He's our starter. And not only does he take over the job, he becomes that anchor. He becomes that Reggie White type anchor for us. He becomes that Ronnie Lott. And in the offseason, this is back before there was a such thing as an OTA. It was me calling an offense, doing 7-on-7. It was Lofa running the defense, calling a 7-on-7, sometimes running the plays as they were supposed to, sometimes making up plays. But I just really felt that's where the camaraderie came. It's where a lot of player-led leadership, and every team that I've ever been on, the great teams, the special teams are the teams where, and listen, the coaches care a lot. They care a lot. They sacrifice a lot. But it's when the players care more than the coaches about the success of the team, about holding each other accountable. And that's what we got out of Lofa. And it was just natural. Day one, this guy that started his career at the University of Maine, I think maybe walked on at USC, became a superstar at USC, leaves early, shows up at our place as we can get some depth here at linebacker. No. That's it. I'm your Ray Lewis. Let's go. And that was huge for us, getting him. So just wanted to say that publicly.
You guys want to talk about the Super Bowl at all?
No. Gee, can we?
We don't have to.
No, let's talk about it.
Well, I've asked Lofa about it before. He doesn't want to talk about it too much, and I can understand why. I'll tell you, as a fan, it was also one of the worst days I've had also, I mean, you guys got absolutely screwed in that game. There's no other way to say it.
Well, listen, like a couple things, like I could write a book about this, but basically we didn't, a couple lessons. We were the best team in football that year. I firmly believe that. We didn't play our best that day, though. We actually didn't play very well. And when Pete Carroll got to Seattle, he actually played a Kobe Bryant video about over trying and trying too hard and all this stuff. And as a lifelong Celtics fan, like I really didn't want to hear it. But like that Kobe video, it hit me right in the spot. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, that's it. Like that was us. That was us. And it stinks that we didn't get an opportunity to go back, but there are learning lessons. And like, I'll just tell one quick story. The Super Bowl that the Seahawks were in New York against the Broncos.
Yeah.
I think one of the lessons for us that we didn't realize, we didn't know how well Steeler fans were going to travel to Detroit. Like, I know it's geographically close, but like we weren't ready for it. Like I wasn't ready for all the terrible towels. I wasn't ready to go on silent count. Like I had no idea the home field advantage that they would have. And it was a factor in the game, like for us a little bit. And I got caught off guard by that. When that snap went over Peyton Manning's head, because the 12s were so loud at MetLife Stadium, I got goosebumps because it was like, you know what? I think we sort of learned, like, you can have a home field advantage in a Super Bowl. And like, I don't think anyone ever thought that. That clearly was the case that day. And that just set the tone for what happened that day. And like, Denver never recovered. And like, I don't know, like for me and all like kind of like any Seahawk alum, not even the guys that lost the Super Bowl in Detroit, any Seahawk alum, Steve Largent, Jim's, all of them, to like the pride that we had when the Seahawks were eventually able to hoist the Lombardi and bring it back to Seattle. It was awesome. And so like, I felt like in a small way, like that was something we sort of did together. We learned the hard way, and man, was that a cool game.
Absolutely. No, it all started with you guys for sure. It did. It definitely did. Matt, I have a list of random silly questions that we ask all of our guests. Would you like to take the little quiz here?
Let's go.
All right. Let me get on my intense music, producer Katie. I haven't done this yet this year. Where is it? Oh, there it is. It's kind of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something.
And then we'll let you out of here, buddy. I promise.
Matt,
it's awesome. It's like therapy. This is like a therapy session.
Oh, man, you can come back anytime.
Are you going to ask me how to spell Wiener Schnitzel? It's WIENERSCHNITZEL, I think. There you go.
No, I was going to remind you, though, and remind all of our listeners about our trips that we got coming up this season. Lofa and I in the podcast and listeners can come on some game day adventures with us. We're going to New York, LA, Dallas, and Nashville.
Okay.
Play one of your old
sounds
teams.
like a lot of direct flights, right there. Big cities.
Show goes on the road.
Check out take12travel.com if you guys want to come with us. Matt, the first question that I have for you on my list of random questions is heads or tails?
Tails never fails, maybe? What do you think?
It's up to you. You're out there calling it.
Yeah, I'm going to say tails.
Okay. Every time. So you get tails every time?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, like I was just thinking about we want the ball, we want to score, because that seems to be like, especially now at the age of TikTok, and I'm coaching high school kids. Like these high school kids are like, they're the ones I hear it from like the most now.
They found it.
And no, it's great. Like I actually sort of like talking about it, but like, I don't even know if I called heads or tails. I kind of feel like it was tails. I kind of feel like on the walk out there, I asked John Randall, because like John Randall was like the guy. Like when he was in our locker room, like he was, even when he was an opponent, he was that guy. And I just remember walking out there and but I don't know if it was heads or tails. So to answer your question, I'll go tails today, but whatever.
I don't remember either.
Matthew, I've always defended you. You said we were going to score. You threw a touchdown pass, buddy. I'm just saying.
Hey, read between the lines, Lofa. Okay. No, but can I talk about that real quick? I know we're in like this lightning round thing.
Yes.
I think
Matt, you can talk about whatever you want, my man.
Listen, that was 03. That was 03. And I think one of the things Mike Holmgren was really instilling in us was, hey, listen, I coached at the Niners. We went to Super Bowls. We hoisted Lombardi's. Like, I know what it takes. Okay. I went to Green Bay, same exact thing. Took that team to 2 consecutive Super Bowls. Like, I know what it takes. We have what it takes in this room. Okay. Here's what we don't have. We don't believe it. Like, we don't believe it. We don't have this like confidence or this swagger that you think you're good enough. And we had Trent Dilfer on our team, and he got up one time that year and spoke to our team, and it was just so great. Like, he was kind of like, we do have it all. Like, Mike is right. We have Hall of Fame players. We have veteran players that are under it. We have young guys that have a lot of talent. Like, we got to believe. It was almost like this like Ted Lasso moment, but like it was kind of like that's the next step, and not really in a false way. Like, I didn't know the microphone was on or whatever, but like, being that way around your teammates against the opponent who you also know, like, it's a little bit of a mindset. And I do appreciate like Legion of Boom was a thing, or the Seahawks have this like aura about them now. People don't want to go to Seattle. Like, we didn't have that. Like, we were just like some random team out there, like at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so we didn't get it that day. In fact, that was like not how I wanted the game to end. But losing that game in 2003, and actually we lost on the last play of the game in 2004 in the wild card game at home against the Rams on a last pass. But those two losses together, I think, really propelled us to have the success that we had in 2005, because if you just do what you always have done, you're going to be what you've always been. And the heartbreak loss, really 2004 was really heartbreaking. 2003, we're in a way sort of happy to be there. But like, those two heartbreaking losses really set us on a path to get better in a lot of ways, and to start having sustained success that we just expected.
Well, that moment, anyway. Like, we know how that moment ended, but the thing leading up to it and what you said was like just the coolest thing ever. I will never forget where I was. The Seahawks were always, as you described it, like, they had some good moments with the silver helmets from, at the very beginning, but then there was a lot of, as a fan, it was always hard. And but when you said that, and it was like, I don't know, it was like we needed it. And the teams needed it, and it was confident, and it was.
It's funny though, like,
cool, Matt.
at the time, at the time, no one really, like, I didn't know it got picked up.
Right.
Like, I thought maybe, but like, I wasn't sure. Like, it wasn't really like, I don't think at the time it was known. And obviously it was known at home, but like, I didn't, Joe Buck.
I was watching with a big group of friends. I remember we were like, oh, we're like, hell yeah, Matt. It was amazing. It was the greatest.
Yeah. But the mindset. Anyway.
Next question. Go-to halftime snack. Did you have one while you were playing?
Yeah, changed throughout the year, right? Like, we would always eat pregame 4 hours before kickoff. I was starving, and I would cramp up. Like, I'd cramp up after games or fourth quarters of games, so I needed food. So I would have an athletic trainer sneak me a hot dog, and I would eat the bun. Or sneak me a piece of pizza from the concessions, and I would eat it. And then the athletic trainers and the strength coaches, like, they were like, hold up, like, we can do better than this. Because at the time, like, they would serve orange slices at halftime. And then they started using like those honey stingers, and then they started adding like Crustables, like peanut butter and jellies, and like
that was my favorite.
You'd pound 2 Crustables at halftime,
and I was back.
Yeah, but as I went through my career, and I would say when I finished my career in 2015 with the Indianapolis Colts, like, we had a nutritionist that we hired from like Alabama, and she had like protein balls in there. She it was like a really intelligent, I felt like a triathlete or something like that by the time I was out of the league. But no, early on, it was just like, kind of like Mark Sanchez did that one time, like sneaking a hot dog in. I was smart enough not to do it on the bench. I would do it in my locker. But that was the thing.
I know Fiegels might be old enough, but are you guys old enough to ever see a guy smoke a cigarette in the locker room?
Our dads did.
I bet.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But like, I had coaches who did that though. Definitely had coaches who would smoke. Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, we asked this question last season, Lofa, and so we're taking credit for it finally happening. I'll just keep asking.
He's been asking for 3 seasons.
Seen it yet, but just on a scale of 1 to 10, Matt, how bad do you want to see the Seahawks wear their old school silver helmet uniforms? Lofa and I have been asking this for like 5 seasons, so now it's finally happening. Are you pumped for this thing to be happening finally?
Totally. Huge fan of throwbacks. Yeah. I know it makes a lot more work for Eric Kennedy and the equipment guys and all that stuff, but Honestly, like I got to wear those uniforms my first
right.
year. And the only thing I didn't love about them is that they didn't fit great. They were made by Puma. And like the neck, like the league now is universal. Like everyone's wearing the exact same like cut of a jersey. But when I went from, I think I wore Nike with the Packers and I got to Seattle and it was Puma, the neck was cut like real low. And like literally like guys would grab me, like Michael Strahan would grab me or something. My like jersey would come off my shoulder pads. So, like I didn't like the fit of the uniform, but I love the look of the uniform, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no,
so then when we went to the whatever you call like
I don't even know what those are called.
Sort of the Mike Holmgren Seahawk blue, right? Like what we wore.
I think they call it.
Yeah.
Whatever the official name is, those uniforms fit so much better. And those just kind of became like what we preferred. But
yeah,
I'm in favor of like all throwbacks. Like I'm a huge fan. And
the Bucks are going to do their creamsicle ones too this year.
Who's that? Tampa?
Yeah, Tampa. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's super cool. In fact, like when I sign autographs and someone will have me sign like an old Seahawks helmet, it's usually like with like a really cool, those helmets autograph a little bit better because you can do like a really cool, like blue metallic pen or green metallic pen. And it looks really sharp.
Yeah. They're going to look sweet. The next question is favorite Pete-ism, but you could also give us your favorite Holmgren-ism. And I love all Holmgren stories. And I think I speak for all Seahawks fans when I say, I think not only do we love you as a player, Matt, and obviously Mike as a coach, but we love your relationship together. It was great.
It was exciting. No, it was awesome. I feel really fortunate, and I say all the time like how fortunate I was to have great coaches, and now that I'm coaching, I sort of feel like I owe those guys apologies because I didn't realize like how hard it is. But I'll start with like Pete. You know, Pete had 3 rules. Okay, here's a good one. Okay, so rule 1, protect the team. You can break that out. It means a lot. Rule 2, no whining, no complaining, no excuses. Great rule. But number 3 is kind of a unique one. It's not unique, but it's like to describe it makes more sense. Like, so number 3 is be early. And be early is like, yeah, be early. But like he would say it this way. He would say, be early because it's a sign of respect for what's about to happen. Wide receivers, be early to the run game install. It's a sign of respect for what's important, what you think is important, or how important you think what's about to happen. And vice versa, running backs, whoever, be early to the pass game 7-on-7 install. It's a sign of respect for what's about to happen. And so like, I think whether you're on a football team or just in business in general, hey, we got a 9:00 meeting, you roll in at 8:59 or 9:01. I think it's like normal, like that's common. And I think what's unique about some of the great coaches that I had, Tom Coughlin in college, Mike Holmgren, go all the way down to Pete Carroll, it was almost like you forget you're at work because everyone's, say there's a 9:00 meeting, you're trying to get there at 8:55. 1, because it's a sign of respect for what's about to happen, but 2, because Pete's creative and something cool is happening for the first 5 minutes before the meeting starts anyway. And it's just like an energy about going to work and you forget you're at work. And I just thought that was a really cool thing that he did. And that was a great sort of Pete-ism, if you want a good one.
Yeah, for sure. What was a Mike-ism? Did he have a favorite saying?
A lot. I think for quarterbacks, one of my favorite things that he said, I didn't understand what it meant. And then once I did, it's like changed everything for me. It was as a quarterback, you're an artist, not a blacksmith. And like when I was in college, I was real robotic. I'm be like, okay, if they're in an underfront, they're going to bring a strong dog, play 3 fire zone. We have 22s in. I have to throw the hot to the running back and gain 3 yards. And he would say to Brett all the time, Brett Favre, he would say, you're an artist, not a blacksmith. You're an artist, not a blacksmith. And so like what that meant to me is like, hey, if they want to disguise it and they want to bring the strong dog from depth and that John Lynch safety wants to come down because he's disguising it, you don't have to throw the hot to the running back for 2 yards. You don't have to. If you would rather paint your canvas in such a way that you're going to look there like you're throwing hot and off your 5th step, bang it to the Z on the 12-yard in, they'll never expect it because that corner is going to be press bail. Now we have Darrell Jackson on a catch and a 15-yard run because you weren't a robot. You weren't a blacksmith, just like dun, dun, dun. You're an artist painting your canvas. And I'm not telling you that's what you have to do, but you're painting the canvas. I might call that play 5 times today. 3 times you want to do it this way, 2 times you want to do it that way. You're a quarterback. You're an artist. Paint your canvas. And like like I said, like at first I was kind of like, huh, what? Canvas? I'm no good at painting, but when I got it, it made perfect sense. And it's probably the thing that I say the most to the quarterbacks that I coach now.
Wow. Well, we were lucky to get to watch you paint for a while up there, Matt, for sure. Last question here, and I love asking it when I kind of already know the answer because I get your story on this one. Where were you during the Beastquake?
Well, I was almost getting it called back is what I was doing. Yeah, so listen, so we called the play 17 power. I'm trying to think what I can tell you that, people don't already know. I'll tell you one story that's really kind of amazing. But yeah, we were trying to listen. When you're in 4-minute mode, you're really kind of playing the clock a little bit more than you are like scoring. And so like in the huddle, you usually spend a lot of time in the huddle, let the play clock come down and give reminders in the huddle. Usually it's like, guys, no penalties. That'll stop the clock. Running back, 2 hands on the ball. We don't need to fight for an extra yard, just like 2 hands on the ball. And then for power, one of the coaching points that I would hear coaches say all the time is hit it downhill. I'm going to give you vision to the weak side A gap because that's sometimes where big plays happen. I'm going to give you vision. Don't roll it. Hit it downhill. And I remember I said something like that to Marshawn, the last thing I said. But never in a million years did I think he was going to take it to the house. In fact, I'm supposed to carry out a naked bootleg fake on that play. But I was like just kind of mixing it up and just to kind of stay behind the play in case there's a fumble, I handed the ball off and then like I set to pass like it was a play action. So then I see him take off and I chase him. Well, the story I want to tell you about this ball is Marshawn celebrates, does his celebration. He probably got fined for his celebration. And me and Ben Obamanu grab the ball and we're like, this is maybe the greatest run in NFL history. We're going to make sure we save this ball. We bring it to the sidelines. We give it to the equipment guys. We're like, make sure Marshawn saves this ball. Well, Marshawn being Marshawn, he's like, I want to finish the game out with that same ball because we got the ball back. Earl Thomas intercepted Drew Brees. So we get the ball back. So Marshawn takes the ball and gives it to the referee to put back in the game. Well, we just end up taking a knee to end the game.
Yeah.
And Marshawn sprints into the locker room as soon as the game's over because he doesn't want to like talk to people and mingle. Well, after the game, like, I don't know that he does that. My kids are on the field for the first time ever. All of a sudden, Henry's on my shoulders. My girls are with me. I got a broken wrist. I have that game ball in my hand because I took the last kneel down.
Right.
So I give it to my daughter. My daughter's got the ball. It stayed in her room for like, I don't know, probably like 10 years. Like my dog has had that ball in its mouth probably. Like, I don't even know what that ball. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, wow.
I'm playing for the Colts, and NFL Films is doing this story on Marshawn Lynch and the Beastquake and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, Marshawn doesn't know what happened to the ball. And I didn't know the story. They tell me that story, and I'm sitting there like, wait, what? He put the ball back in the game? I'm like, that ball is probably like in my daughter's bedroom next to like
so funny.
Who knows
what now?
Well, that's a good question. We're digging in on that. We're digging.
The search continues.
If I took a little time, I could probably, if I got like the Antiques Roadshow people to come over and like help me like make sure.
I'd have to dust for fingerprints or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, every referee, every umpire, referee, the white hat, will take a Sharpie, and this is how they used to do it, and they'll write their jersey number. So like if I'm, 135, they'll write like 135 on the ball. So like you could track it. Maybe there's a special thing on the ball. I don't know, but the ball's destroyed. It's going to be like, it's going to look like,
our buddy Ryan, who helps us with the show, The Missing Link. He just texted me a photo of you walking off the field, I think after that game. And I think the ball is in the photo. You got your kids with your
so I have
that might be the ball in that photo.
I have a photo in my office here. My daughter's just chilling. She's got her puffy winter coat on and a hat.
Yep, that's the photo I'm looking at with the beanie
like
on.
A loaf of bread.
Well, there it is. There's photo evidence.
Unsolved mysteries.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Check out at Take 12 Pod. We'll tweet that out there. Matt, this has been a ball for me, man. I could talk to you all day. Thanks so much again for your time and everything. And I think we'll wrap it up on that, huh, Lofa?
Matt, love you, brother. I appreciate you. My love to the family, man.
You're the best, Loaf. 51 forever.
A little too loud there on the theme song. Sorry. You guys, let me just quickly remind you about our sponsors, epicseats.com, Wiener Schnitzel, and of course, Delta Airlines. The Take 12 podcast only flies with Delta Airlines, of course, to all of our trips and everything. Take12travel.com for all of that. For Lofa, I'm Brett. That's Matt. We're getting out of here. Anything else, producer Katie? No. All right. We'll see you next time on the episode. Matt, we break it down all a team.
Oh yeah, what are the QB? What do the cubes break it down to?
Oh, Q's on 2, 1, 2 Q's. That's how we do it.
Oh wow, it was too quick. Can we do it again?
Wait, hold on.
That's why you're not a Q anymore. Okay. How about take 12? Hey, how about take 12 on 2? 1, 2, take 12.